So we have temperance, which is to be patient and self-control. We have patience, just waiting, right? And we have faith, right? Remember, fix your. We need to fix how we see the Lord, right? That we may have the right faith, right? Remember that the Most High may be strict on us, but uh, He manages the temptation that He will put on us, right? And gives an escape plan, right? That's First Corinthians 6 and 13. So put that all together, we may able to avoid the reprobate mind, right? Because to be reprobate is to be morally corrupt, and we don't want that to happen, right? Remember that the Most High can bless us a a corruptible mind, and we don't want that to happen, right? That's why we must be temperate or or have self-control in the things that we are perfecting, right? And what is that? Something that we are perfecting, the law, right? So we must run accordingly, right? That is according to the law. Do it accordingly, right? That we may not have a reprobate mind, right? These are the things that could make the Lord give us a reprobate mind. This is Romans 1 and 28. And even as they did not like to retain God in their knowledge, God gave them to a reprobate mind to do those things which are not convenient, being filled with what? Unrighteousness, which is not keeping the law, fornication, wickedness, covetousness, thou shalt not covet, maliciousness, full of envy, right? Jealousy, murder, and debate, right? So when we engage into much of this stuff, there's a lot more. Backbiters, haters of God, spiteful, proud, boasters, slanderers of evil things, disobedient to parents, without understanding, covenant breakers, without natural affection, implacable, unmerciful, right? Then that is something that we could get a reprobate mind, and we don't want that to happen, right? Remember, when we do these things, our minds gets corrupted, right? Even the small things, right? That's why we have to what? Job 28:28. And unto man he said, behold, the fear of the Lord, that is wisdom, and to depart from evil is understanding, right? So when we get morally corrupt, we do evil things, right? And that is against the law. But if we stop doing that by being set apart, by being repentant, we can what? Depart from evil, and then we can get what? Understanding, right? We don't want to lose understanding, because that's a very important thing in this walk, right? Think of it like walking daily, but you don't know how to reason, right? Remember the trials of men is reasoning, right? So we have to take care of our reasoning, because when we fall into the wrong path, we lose our understanding, and we don't want that to happen, right? Therefore, you know, I want to bring out this is First Corinthians 9:25. That's why we need temperance, right? Because we could get this. And every man that striveth for the mastery is temperate in all things. Now, some or they do it to obtain a corruptible crown, but we an incorruptible, right? So be temperate in all things, have self-control, do one law at a time, just keep whatever that is you are, or keep the stuff, or keep the laws that you are able to keep right now, right? We can instantly perfect it, but we have to invest much time, effort, studying the law, that we may be able to keep it and therefore be perfect around it, right? So that's something that I want to meditate on. I want to keep always taking my meds, right? Because when we daily medicate ourselves with the word, we meditate, right? And meditation is repetition, right? And when you are instantly or constantly, or excuse me, or continuously meditating, right? you are repeating yourself something, and you are more, or excuse me, you are less vulnerable to be tempted by the enemy, right? Remember, the enemy is like a lion, right? He is always watching and looking for a prey to tempt, right? But we have temperance, right? And temperance keeps us sober and vigilant, right? Because when we rush things, our faith gets shaken, and when things get shaken, that's when or where worry comes, and worrying feeds off, excuse me, worrying feeds the fear of the world, right? And we don't want that kind of fear, right? We need to have the fear of the Most High, right? That's why walk slowly, walk with the Spirit, right? I think that's Galatians 5. Let's do this continuously, man. We need to keep taking our daily meds, right? Because this is infinite. This is the words of the Most High. This is it, right? This I say then, walk in the Spirit, and you shall not fulfill the lust of the flesh. The lust of the flesh is like a fire or a spark, right? you know Lust is the same as, yeah, excuse me, lust could be the same as love, right? Who can quench the fires of love, right? That's so. In lust, when you're trying to spark something, it burns your entire body. And when you get burned, you are more susceptible, or um, more open to temptations, right? But if you're careful with your spirit and with your body, right, you will not light up that lust, right? And you will not light up that lust, right? But if we rush things, if we don't have temperance, I repeat, if we don't have temperance, we rush things, we don't have self-control, we do things boldly, right? I think in Sirach says that he who is with a bold man uh, can get himself into trouble, right? And trouble is not keeping the law or falling to keep the law, right? And actually, I want to get that up. There it is, Ecclesiasticus 8 and 15, right? Travel not by the way with a bold fellow, right? When we don't have temperance, excuse me, first I want to make a point that it's also important it's also important to know who you are with, right? Because you are who you are with, right? And if you are with a bold fellow, or a person who rushes things because of his pride, or you know his will, not the will of the Most High, then this could happen. Ecclesiasticus chapter 8 and verse 15. Travel not by the way with a bold fellow, for fear, or lest he become grievous unto thee. Grievous means trouble, or a burden. For he will do according to his own will, and thou shalt perish with him through his folly, right? That's why it's also important to be with brothers and sisters who have understanding, or who are departed from darkness, right? Because they have temperance, right? So, choose your friends wisely. It's not wrong to stay away from brothers or sisters who are irresponsible, right? Because both of us are really just trying our best to keep the laws, right? And to keep the law first is to be temperate in all things, right? One at a time, one by one. I have a I met someone before where he knows the doctrine, but he lacks understanding in certain areas, right? And he wants to go boldly to a Catholic church and debate and spread the word. He has good intentions, but his pride, disrupts his reasoning, and that's where people fall. And when people fall, that's where things gets corrupted, right? When a machine gets falling a lot, it falls, it breaks into stuff, right? And we have to prevent that from always falling, right? Because when it falls a lot, it will come to a point where it will be unable to fix, right? That's what is happening. So we have to be wise and temperate in this walk. So that's the same point that I want to point out, because it's very, very important, and we don't want to slip, and we just want to walk with a straight path. And if we don't do that properly, we could fall and get a corruptible mind, right? And I want to finish up with this verse, right? Because if we have patience and temperance in doing this thing and studying the doctrine, right, remember that this will happen, right? This is the book of Ecclesiasticus, chapter 6 and verse 37. Let thy mind be upon the ordinances of the Lord, and meditate continually in his commandments. He shall establish thine heart, right? The heart is like the mind, right? So when you're constructing something, right, with temperance and patience, you can build, you can build what needs to be built, right? In the book of Matthew, it says that he who builds his house on a rock, right? Even whatever the things that comes, whatever calamities that comes, right, you are able to withstand it, right? So that's why apply temperance and walk slowly in this walk, right? So it's a very important verse because sometimes brothers and sisters lack the patience or temperance in this walk, and they end up rushing things, right? And when things get rushed, things gets corrupted or things gets broken. That's basically it. When your mind is corrupted, it just means something is broken. And when you're rushing things, it's hard to pause and fix what needs to be fixed, right? So keep daily meditating. Remember that we are against the flesh, right? But if we take our daily meds, that's when we are able to combat what needs to be destroyed, right? All praises to the Most High, man. Thank you for listening, and thank you. All praise to the Most High through Christ.